Alright, hey everybody. So today I want to talk about tomatoes. More importantly, the two different types of tomatoes. Determinates and indeterminate tomatoes. Now, I did learn quite a bit last year in 2021 about tomatoes. Obviously, I think this is a plant that you're just constantly learning throughout life. But let's check this out right here. Now this one here is a determinate tomato, so it's not going to get big. And again, I shouldn't have planted them here. I should have planted them over there, but it's okay. They're growing. This is just gardening, right? It's all about learning and making mistakes and not doing them again. Okay, so as you can see in that video clip right there, when I planted the tomatoes last year, I didn't really have an idea of what a determinate and an indeterminate tomato was. So when I planted them, they were planted incorrectly. So let's break down determinates and indeterminate tomatoes. First off, a determinate tomato is a tomato plant that grows basically like a bush. Gets 3 to 4 foot tall, right in that range. It'll put on all of its fruit right away. It'll put on the fruit really fast in one big harvest of fruit. And then over the rest of the year, if you leave it in the pot or in the garden, you don't take it out, it will slowly put on tomatoes here and there. You get one big batch of tomatoes at the beginning, and then pretty much the plant is, for the most part, done. Those are like your Roma tomatoes, things like that, tomatoes like that. They're also really, really good for container gardening. I'm going to focus the majority of my determinate tomatoes in containers this year, in pots. And I want to free up the room for the indeterminates in the actual garden. Now let's flip to indeterminates. And let's check out this video right here. The Cherokee tomato plant here goes all the way up there. It has not produced one tomato. The Cherokee tomato plant. Okay. In that clip, it was right here. That's where I had that plant, just right here behind me, in that TP trellis. And you could see that it grew tall. That Cherokee tomato plant got to a good 7 foot tall, but it never put on a single tomato. Now, I don't know if that was because of the time of year, it was too hot or whatever, but it didn't put on any fruit at all. It just kept growing and growing and growing. So if a determinate plant gets to 3 or 4 feet and no bigger, well then an indeterminate tomato plant grows and grows and grows, right? So for an indeterminate tomato plant, you're going to want a trellis system of some kind. However you think up trellis systems, let your imagination run wild with a trellis that you want to do for yourself, but you will need to trellis your indeterminate tomatoes. Indeterminate tomatoes are, an example, are cherry tomatoes. They'll get that one long vine with a whole bunch of little tomatoes on the side of it, and it'll come off the vine. Those are indeterminates. They will continuously grow up, and the fruit comes off the sides of the stalk, of the main stalk. Now, the good thing about an indeterminate is you're going to get fruit throughout the entire growing season. It's not like a determinate where it just puts it all on at once and then stops. It will continuously keep putting on fruit throughout the growing season. The bad thing about it is I would highly recommend not using a pot system or a container system for an indeterminate, because you need a trellis for those. Indeterminates will get 6, 7, 8 feet tall. Some will even go taller than that. What you do is make sure that whatever tomatoes that you decide to start growing for your spring garden, you know what kind of plant they are. I made the mistake of putting my single seed challenge tomato plants last year in a raised bed, not knowing that those plants, that specific type of tomato plant, was an indeterminate tomato plant. Just kept growing and growing and growing. So I kind of messed that up last year, but that's all right. Gardening's all about learning. So I recommend whatever tomato plant you decide to grow this year in 2022, make sure you Google or whatever, make sure that you find out what type of plant it is so you know how to properly prepare for that plant. As you saw in that first video clip, I planted last year I planted determinate tomatoes in between indeterminate tomato plants. So the indeterminates grew, blocked out the sun that the determinate ones needed, and they didn't really do anything. To be completely honest, I didn't get very much fruit at all off of those determinate plants. This year I'm going to totally change the way I do everything, and I'm going to properly plan how I'm going to plant this garden. So hey everyone, that's it. Determinates or indeterminates. Those are the two types of tomato plants that there are. You just have to make sure that you know the plant or the plants that you plan on growing. Remember, Roma tomatoes, which a lot of people like to plant, are determinates. So they're great for container gardening. They'll put on a lot of fruit right away, and then they're pretty much done. Indeterminates, you're going to want a trellis system. You actually want to put them, I would recommend, in a raised bed or in your garden. Not a raised, you're going to actually want to plant them into your garden, and you're going to need a trellis system. So yeah, that's it everybody. Hope you all enjoyed this video. It's a short and quick video. There's not a lot to it, but it's very important to know what kind of tomato plant you plan on growing and what that tomato plant needs. All right, everyone, if you enjoyed this video, please like the video, share the video if you found it educational at all. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I would appreciate it. Check me out on Facebook and Instagram, Down Home Backyard Gardening. And as always, shine bright and harvest hard. Bye. Needs to grow to its best, to grow so it grows the best that it possibly can. So it can grow to the best, so it can produce the best amount of fruit. So it can produce the most amount of fruit possible. So yeah. All right, everybody, so that's it. That's the end of the video. Why do I keep saying? All right, so everyone, that's the end of the video. If y'all have any questions, please call me.